You know, I'm reminded as I look around here and I see this crowd here, what my friend Willie Morris used to say about a confluence of history. Supervisor Lee has shared with us his memories of when he remembered that day when Mr. Meredith's life was almost taken from us. I met Mr. James Meredith when I was 17 years old. I was writing a history paper at my school. And not only did I interview Mr. Meredith, but I had the chance to interview Governor Barnett. This was 1982, so it was the 20th anniversary of Mr. Meredith's integration at the University of Mississippi. I grew up with the name of James Meredith in my household because my father, Bob, worked on the 8th floor of the Woolfolk State Office Building in Jackson. Now, if you read your history books, you know that is where Mr. Meredith first attempted to enroll at Ole Miss. The college registration office was actually located in the Woolfolk building. And I've got a picture of my father looking out at the sea of cameras outside the Woolfolk building on North State Street in Jackson. The BBC was there and ABC. We just had 3 television networks for any young people out there. But the thing about that I can recall that my mother talking about is that there were so many news media, which my dad still is chagrined the fact that I joined the Fourth Estate, but that's another subject. But there were so many news media, he could not eat his lunch that day because the news media was kind of camped out, I believe, in the cafeteria. So I remember my dad kind of grousing about the fact he didn't get to eat his lunch that day. But you think about the walkers who walk down this highway that's right here in the blistering hot sun, their shoes probably worn from walking the distance. They were hot and tired. They would be refused accommodations in any hotels at the time, and they were given fields to lay out in at night. Dr. McLemore can probably share some of his stories from that era. But I think back upon this day and where we are today. And I'm one of these people who, I love history and I like to look back, but I also like to look forward. And I think if Dr. King were here and other people were here, they would highlight the fact that, yes, we have indeed come a long way, but we still have so far to go. And I would echo what Mayor Johnson has said. Hopefully there will be a day when it will be commonplace that any person, regardless of the color of their skin, their religious affiliation, who they are as a person, that they will be given the equal rights that were given to them by their Creator, that indeed are promised in our Declaration of Independence. We went out west, Brian, myself, Dr. Lisa Manning, and others, and we took the message that as a group of Mississippians, that if Mississippi can change, that the world can change. And that if Mississippi can come to terms with its past, that America can come to terms with its past. But you need a leader, you need someone courageous. And I can remember Mr. Meredith and I having this conversation that his journey was to enable African Americans to vote, but it was a walk against fear, because fear is a crippling thing. You can never take that first step if you're crippled by fear. And there are warriors in this world who show us that truly the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. When Mr. Meredith walked down this highway, he was armed with 2 things: a Bible and an African walking stick. Those were the 2 things. Now, we had a conversation earlier at the restaurant that he lost that walking stick. I'm going to see if we can't find that. We think we may have some leads on that walking stick. But I do know that what perhaps was his most valuable possession was inside of him. And that is something that very few people have in this world, and that is true courage and true fearlessness, and having a fierce conviction that you're here on this earth for a reason. Ladies and gentlemen, it is no mistake, it is no happenstance that James Meredith is alive here today, some 50 years after the fact that someone tried to end his life. It is what William Faulkner said, I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He will prevail because he has a soul capable of compassion, pity, sacrifice, and endurance. And ladies and gentlemen, it is those intangible things that enable us to endure as a common species. We are all members of the human race. We are, and what the late President John F. Kennedy said, human beings who are mortal. We all breathe the same air. We all have the same aspirations for our children. I give to you, I turn the lectern over to a man who indeed showed all of us what courage truly means. A man who is humble, a man who is devout in his spiritual beliefs, a man who believes in young people, a man who believes in this country, a man who believes in the human race. It is my distinct honor and my high privilege